It is 8:25 p.m. and this is a look at the Altona Forest Fire as it looks right now. Within half an hour of sunset, it'll be dark within half an hour. So it looks like a long night ahead for the firefighters, with more possibly tomorrow. So while the rest of us can move on with our lives, these volunteers are out here trying to extinguish this fire, and they've been out there for 8 to 9 hours already. So this will be the first look at the follow-up that's being taken on Thursday evening. It is now the morning of Friday the 13th, July 13th, 2018, and we were hoping that we looked at this a while back, that the haze would clear, but it's certainly not going to clear. There's a distinct smell of smoke from here in my yard. We don't see any large amounts of smoke rising. It just seems to be a low cloud of smoke over that Altona area. It's 7:05 at the moment. And looking back at the headlines of the newspapers from August of 1957, the fire started. They thought they'd put it out, and then it spread and became far worse. Hopefully that's not the case this year. They obviously made great progress overnight, but as we saw yesterday, there's a large perimeter where it's smoldering, and you can imagine what the circumference of that perimeter of that area is. That whole perimeter is going to be miles and miles around. So to go around there and make sure that the fire is out is a daunting task. But if not, any one of those little burning embers could possibly ignite and start up a new fire, or 2 or 3 in different directions. So at this point in time, I'm sure the firefighters are still out there doing stuff. We'll try to see what we can do for coverage in the coming hours. It's about 10:30 in the morning on Friday the 13th. We're at the Altona Fire Station. We thought we'd pull in here and see what's happening before we head out. We see a reporter from Channel 5 just drove up. There are some people sitting in the station. As we can see, the state forest people, state fire fighters, Hogansburg, Akwesasne is here. Our vehicle's parked along here. We're going to check and see what we can get for an update as we head into the fire zone again. They are gathering support from throughout the northern tier. We saw a Malone truck over there. This is Westville coming in. Champlain, and we have the Franklin County Emergency Services trailer here. Well, they continue to arrive, support continuing to arrive. They're moving that Malone truck back here. That was up in that direction earlier. Hopefully there's no other major incidences that occur while all this is happening. I did see online this morning that there was a fire in Rouse's Point overnight. I have no idea how that turned out. But what happens is a lot of firemen, we didn't notice a Champlain truck yesterday, but they were probably on standby at some of the other stations that were here, because they got to keep control of the entire area and not end up with not being able to go to respond to other fires as they might occur. We're hoping to get back at the end of the Brunel Road shortly, but we're going to wait here and see what the public information officer has to say. Liz Treppa, I think that's her name, from Channel 5 is here, so if she's talking to him or her, we'll eavesdrop.
That's fine, yeah. Just whatever you can tell us.
All right, E.O. Russell, was it?
Ed Russell.
Ed Russell, all right.
Could I actually have you scoot a little
He's
more?
a forest ranger, and he's going to answer some questions here for Channel 5, and we're going to eavesdrop.
Okay.
And there will be a press release as we're recording this at 11 o'clock. There will be a press release coming out.
So is this alright if I look at that?
Yeah, you can just look at me the whole time.
Okay.
And your first and last name?
My name is Ed Russell, and I am a captain with the New York State Forest Rangers.
And how do you spell your last name?
R-U-S-S-E-L-L.
And Ed, normal spelling?
It's short for Edwin. So.
Okay, perfect. And I guess what can you tell us right now about the wildfire right now in Altona?
So we have a large number of people working on this fire at this point. We're estimated about 100 acres in size. It's burning in a jack pine or pitch pine type fuel with blueberries underneath, which is a pretty volatile fuel, especially this time of year. So we'll see some pretty good flame and smoke from this fire.
Obviously this isn't, like fighting a house fire like most of these crews are probably used to fighting. What kind of techniques are you using to put this out?
Our biggest technique right now is bulldozer line. So we are establishing controlled breaks in the vegetation type with bulldozers, with hand crew support, and with brush fire engine support, so that we make a wide area that can't burn. And we're starting on one side or two sides of the fire, working around the sides of the fire with the bulldozers.
Now there obviously are not fire hydrants out in the forest like this. Where do you get your water from?
The trucks themselves are carrying water in. We're also using helicopters to do water drops, especially when the fire flares up on us. We're also using hand crews to support and create fire lines as well. And they may be carrying water with them. We'll have water drop sites at places so those engines don't have to come all the way back out to a hydrant or a water source here. And the helicopters are using ponds that are nearby.
Okay. How are the firefighters doing with the heat? It's obviously very hot today.
So not too bad so far, but it's just really starting. There's really a lot of reconnaissance going on to make sure we know exactly what the fire's doing. But the crews that are out there obviously are carrying water and other drinks to support them. The heat's not too bad yet, and there's a nice breeze. This afternoon will be a little bit rougher.
Do you have any idea how many people are actually out there fighting the fire?
I had a piece of paper to have with me. I think that we're about 65 or 70 at staff right now, but it's increasing. And here again, that's everybody, but that's increasing throughout the day.
And that's crews from New York, Vermont, and Canada, is that correct?
We do have some, I believe 4 individuals from Quebec here today. There were some from Vermont yesterday. I'm not sure if they're back here today. We do have corrections, we do have local firefighters, we do have forest rangers, all working on this, and maybe from some other agencies by the end of the day.
Okay. And do you have any idea how this fire might have started, or?
We don't have a good definitive answer for you on that right now. We have some information that came in from the initial firefighters. We have a couple of fire investigators on their way here to determine that.
Okay. I guess you're obviously hopeful that this is resolved sooner rather than later.
This will not be done today, and this won't be done tomorrow. You know, a forest fire takes time. It's really, in many ways, not like the typical house fire in that you don't just go in and take care of it in one shot. Some of the vegetation will burn for days, and that's even if it doesn't expand. And we expect with breezes like this today that we expect it will expand some. That's why I'm just saying it won't be done today.
But are there homes nearby?
There are no structures in danger right now. We do have a group whose job it is to evaluate that problem and to have a plan in place in case it were to get close to structures, but there's nothing in its path right now.
Okay. Anything you want the community to know?
There is going to be a lot of smoke off this fire, and so those people who are more prone to breathing problems or breathing problems, especially on exertion and with the heat today, they should stay in air-conditioned areas, indoors when possible, and not be working out where the smoke is going to bother them. That's pretty important.
Okay. And then one quick question, I just thought of this. We're in sort of a drought right now. We haven't had a whole lot of rain. Do you think that is maybe a factor in this fire?
Well, obviously weather is a huge factor with forest fires to start with, any kind of wildland fire. And so obviously the buildup of time that has gone by without rain certainly does affect this. Still, the vegetation is pretty green, but it is a vegetation that burns pretty easily even when it's green. You know, the pitch in the pine and the oil in the blueberries all contributes to the fire.
Anything else you can think of?
I see that the Clinton County Emergency Services is here. Are they now answering to you? How's the hierarchy work on this?
So this is a unified command, and so Clinton County is here, Franklin County is supporting, Office of Emergency Management, Homeland Security are supporting, so we're working together. There is not a command, there is a unified command of the agencies.
Somebody has to call the final shot though, but who?
So the people that are in the command roles for especially operations right now are experienced forest rangers. Our operations section chief has gone out of state on fires numerous times, as well as been a forest ranger for New York State for a long time. So we have experienced people in those roles.
Fortunately, there hasn't been a lot of on-the-job opportunities in New York State, but there certainly has been to the out west, hasn't there?
That is generally true. We have hot years and not so hot years in New York, but you're right, the last couple of years have not been terribly difficult within New York State. So our out-of-state program is important, but right now we've got enough dry weather here. We probably won't be helping out anybody else until our weather changes a little bit.
How far is the fire from where we are right now?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I do not know that.
Okay.
It's not far.
Okay.
But
Within a couple miles.
Okay.
my guess, but
All right.
my guess would be closer to 5 miles, but I haven't looked at that on a map and I haven't been there yet.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you so much.
11:15. We've now made our way to the southern edge of the Brunel Road. We see a New York State Department of Corrections vehicle here. As Ed Russell mentioned, they mentioned the Department of Corrections, and keep the camera rolling as we walk. And I apologize for all the jumpy footage we've shown here. It's trying to show everything at once, and we sometimes jump around, and of course when we walk we bounce, so the camera bounces. Part of their community work release supervised work. I believe there will be some inmates from the local facility here helping contain this fire. So that's where the Department of Corrections comes in, I believe. So this is an active road here. This is as I said, the southern end. This little area here is actually apparently the snowplow turnaround. We Googled and got an aerial view of this. Well, this family that lives at the end of the road here had some unexpected company yesterday, and they seem to accept it in a friendly manner. I'm not sure what our status is, how far away from the actual fire we are today. I hear a chopper in that direction. Apparently must be far enough away or low enough that I'm not going to be able to see it. The coal is still here today. Another Department of Corrections vehicle. It's 11:20 right now, and we're going to find out what we can find out. There's tankers here. They'll continue to bring in water for the guys fighting it on the ground, I would assume. As we get set to walk in, we'll take another look. Here's a van that they would have transported some of those inmates in with. But you got to have lots of clearance in your vehicle and some sturdy tires if you're going to try to drive through here. Talking to off the record to some of the firefighters, they said they pretty much shut down last night after when it got dark, and fortunately the fire didn't continue to spread uncontested. It obviously is continuing to spread, but we're not seeing the big high clouds that we saw yesterday. So we'll walk in, and if we find something that looks interesting, we'll put the camera on. We might walk for 2.5 to 3 miles and not put the camera on at all. But I did look at the Google Maps, and there's a whole lot of area to the south of where that fire is burning, and heading out a little closer to the Flat Rock area. And from the aerial view, there are acres and acres of land between here and the $1 million dam that we couldn't see any trees at all. All we could see is this kind of stuff. And this is the kind of stuff that we saw yesterday that was burning in the area where we walked in, where the fires had taken place. The trees, for the most part, were still standing, and it's all the undergrowth that had burned. So there's areas and areas out there, acres and acres of just plain undergrowth. Here comes the vehicle coming out. That's the tanker. They must be coming back to fill up so they can go back and fill up for the guys with their four-wheelers. So they'll fill up that tank and then head back to their station up this way.
Have fun.
I intend to. Into a particularly high area here. Have to take their time going over these rocks. As you can see, when they got a load of water, Just scraping bottom here. There's another vehicle coming through. They just drove out, now they're coming right back in. Probably fill up the cooler with water. It was slow going for them, but that truck with the water tank on the back gradually made its way through here. There's a drop off right here, and a large rock here, and another drop on the other side of it. We've traveled a long distance and have come to another area with one of those vans from Corrections and Community Service. I'm hearing chatter in this direction. It might be somebody bringing in a bulldozer from that direction. I'm seeing some yellow hats and firefighters ahead of us here. So I know one of the strategies is to make a perimeter where it's safe from burning. So the noise I'm hearing in this direction is I'd say basically to the east. As we look at the noonday sun here, it's 11:43. So that would be the generally easterly direction. And as we said, you can see a bulldozer work having done here, and people with hard hats. We're not going to be able to go any further due to safety concerns, but we did want to get a shot of this chopper coming in with a load of water to attack the fire. We've walked back several hundred yards since we took that last picture. We did want to get a shot of this, and this might be the last shots we get today of this area. So we are back to the edge of the Brunel Road, and that's as far as we're going to be able to go today. The forest ranger who walked with us on our way out said we should alert people not to wander in here. So don't, I know probably every kid in Altona has been through this area more than once. Every kid and past kid. But they've got to do their job, and they want to know who's out here at a given time. So let the forest rangers and Department of Corrections and environmental conservationists and emergency services, let them all do their work, and hopefully this won't be a long range event, and maybe in a couple of days I'll be able to get a guided tour of what the final destruction looked like here at Altona. That's going to wrap it up for Friday the 13th. Time is just about noon. As we're driving out on the Brunel Road, we noticed a vehicle turning around, now another one turning around. Looked like a lineup heading for that staging area, but doesn't look like that's what's going to happen here. Not sure what they are doing. There's South Plattsburgh, there's Morrisonville. I think the first one was an Altona one, I'm not sure. This one is also making a wide turn, so And there's a tanker. I would think he'd be heading for that staging area. We'll see. Nope, he's making the turn too. So we thought we'd get a little firefighters parade here, but that ain't gonna happen. Again, we're on the Brunel Road. I've got my off-camera mic plugged in. And the smoke is arising again here. It's now about 12:04 on this Friday the 13th. We're hoping that the camera will pick it up. It's not overly dark, but certainly we can tell that there's a dark plume going up there, and the fire has spread out in width. We see white smoke in that area. We are located about 10 miles or so or more from that area as the crow flies, as we mentioned before. But it definitely has spread as far as the width of the fire. And I'm sure part of that is the plan as they work around that perimeter. And this is at this point in time, obviously at 12:25 here on the 13th, it's obviously the final chapter has not been written on this story. Whether or not we'll be able to get in for more video footage of the firefighters in action, time will tell. Obviously they have concerns about their own safety, and they don't need to be concerned about other folks roaming around. So we're going to close with this shot of the rising smoke in the Altona Forest Fire. July 13th, 2018, this will end this particular chapter.